This podcast is sponsored by Steede Motor Group, Claregalway, supplying a wide variety of new and used vehicles. steedemotorgroup.ie, taking the work out of car shopping.
So delighted now to be joined by Liam Mellows, Senior Hurling Manager, Brian O'Dwyer. Brian, just on that, a lot of people are obviously familiar with you playing for Dublin and Kilmacud Crokes, but some people mightn't have been aware that you did line out last year for Liam Mellows. Just to get into that, how did that come about?
I was moving to Galway. So I was going to join the club down here. I was thinking of playing a Marie or two with my home club in Tipperary, but the commute would have been a little bit hectic, and I was coming to an age where I wasn't able to give much more. So I said, look, I get to know people. It's a good way of getting to know people in the area as well. So it just it came about with that, and there was phone calls made and everything like that. So it's just lucky, I suppose, to have joined a great club like Mellows.
And you're digging your hand into club management this year, taking the reins over Liam Mellows?
Yeah. So Jeff stepped down there over the winter, and I suppose I'm at the age now where they're like, right, what more can he give as a player? So we'll get him to do with the management. So I think Dave Collins rang me there in November, start of December. He was kind of picking my brain to see, do I know anyone that would be interested? And then I gave him a list of a few names. And then he asked about me with my shoulder. Would I be playing this year? And I said, look, I'd love to play, but I don't know because I hurt my shoulder. I had to get surgery on it a few weeks ago. So he was kind of sussing me out. So he rang me a couple of days later and he said, look, I was just sussing you out. Would you have any interest? And I said, well, yeah, I would. There's three teams that I would absolutely love to manage. One is Kilmacud, because that's the club I played with in Dublin, and I do anything to manage them. My club in Tipperary, Catholic and Cormac, that'll be my first choice now, to be honest, no offence to anyone else, but that's my home club. That's the club I grew up in. And there's a good group there now at the moment. They're all very, very young. So I'd love to manage them someday. And then the other one will be Mellows, because that's who I hurled with in Galway. That's my club in Galway. So that's how it kind of came about, and then kind of grew legs after that. So started putting the wheels in motion.
Have you put a backroom team together ahead for the new season?
Yeah, they're all Mellows lads actually. I'm a firm believer of keeping them in the club, so where possible, obviously. So yeah, all Mellows lads. So yeah, can't go wrong.
And have you resumed training now, or are you obviously the split season now and everything? It's a long year, I suppose.
It is. It's a very long year. And I suppose it's a very fine line between going back too early, and then when meaningful hurling starts in August, you're sick of it, whereas going back too late and then playing catch up the whole time, not being fit. So we waited till the league. Now the league fixtures haven't come out yet, but we kind of got a guideline of when the league is starting. So it's the first weekend of April. So we kind of counted 4 weeks back from that. So we're on the pitch. First official session. Now I hope the lads are doing a bit themselves, but our first official session is the first week of March. So
you've been digging your hand in with the NUIG Fitzgibbon squad.
Yeah. I suppose when I was coming down to Galway, I was managing TUD last year in the Fitzgibbon. Not really that successfully, but I suppose didn't have the players that other colleges would have had. But so when Jeff was chatting to me about coming down and playing with Mellows, he said, would I have any interest in helping out with the Fitzgibbon? And I was like, yeah, look, do you know what? Not much to do over the winter. So it'd be nice to get to know people as well. And got to know a good few people through that. And certainly can't complain about it. I got to experience different types of coaching, different types of management through lads that are there. John O'Connor's there. Mike O'Connor, a good Clare man, is over the GAA in the college. So a Clare man promoting Galway hurling. It doesn't really sound right, but yeah, he's in there. Jeff as well. Toby O'Connor is great to have around. He's nearly the team psychologist, the kit man, the everything else. And he gets excited on the sideline. And then PJ Kelly as well. He's in doing a bit of fitness with the lads. So it's great to experience all them and get to know some of the players as well. So yeah, enjoying it.
The Fitzgibbon, obviously, we are recording this on a Wednesday, so for some people listening, NUIG and UCC could be over by then. But you're in the semi-final. It's obviously challenging as well as being involved in this setup, because access to players, being involved with inter-county teams and everything, like, they're realistically, can there be much training done?
Well, all right. I hate being one of these lads saying, well, back in my day, but I am going to say that. Look, back when I was playing Fitzgibbon, like I was in UL, and there was 1 year there in particular with 23 senior inter-county players, and like, in fairness, we all did train with the college, but it was kind of a case of some lads with managers that wouldn't have been as understanding might have felt a bit of pressure this time of the year, and you saw that in their play, and they were kind of falling between two stools. So but basically the point I'm trying to make there is the latitude was given that, yeah, you go and you play with your college, you train with your college, and then you 1 or 2 days a week you train with the county, whatever. And management teams worked together, the college and the inter-county team. The way it's gone at the moment, I'm not saying NUIG here, I'm saying every college team at the moment, or every inter-county team at the moment, it's like it's nearly counting against the player if they're playing Fitzgibbon, because the county player or the county manager wants them at every training session, and like I said, this isn't restricted to NUIG. I know
there as well on a scholarship.
Sorry?
When you throw players in on a scholarship, then like that's what makes it.
Yeah, that's it, and you expect them to be part of the college team, but like there's chatting to lads throughout the country that are in other colleges, and they're not allowed to play with they're not allowed to train with their college team. They're only allowed to play the matches. So I think that it's really stunting the development of a player, even though he's 22, 23. But like, your time in college, you have to have those experiences of meeting lads from different counties, going out, enjoying yourself, letting loose now and again. But when you're part of an inter-county setup, you don't get to do any of that, you know. And my worry is with players that are 19, 20, 21, 22 that are doing your inter-county team and your college team, that there's nearly not a burnout, but well, there is a burnout issue, but there's nearly a taking the enjoyment out of it issue. But college hurling is there to be enjoyed. Personally, if I was over a county team and I had 5-6 lads on playing Fitzgibbon, I would tell them, yeah, look, that's your full commitment. I want you every training session, and I'll be communicating with the manager. I want every training session you're training with the Fitzgibbon, you're playing a match with the Fitzgibbon, but I want to see you 1 day a week. And I'd be perfectly happy with that, because like, especially early in the season, you're going to have, if I'm an inter-county manager, I'm going to have nearly 40 players on the panel.
Yeah.
Now, if 4 or 5 of them are injured, right, just say you're down to 35 to keep numbers round. If 10 lads are away playing with the college, right, well, you still have 25 lads to choose from, you know, and you want to get a look at all your players. So all you need to do is, if you go to the Fitzgibbon games, and obviously with the other 25 you're playing the league games, that gives you a chance to see every single player and see what they are capable of. And then when the college hurling is finished, well, then you get them back and they're still fresh. They're not burdened, they're not worn out, they're not out every single night of the week training, they're living a normal life, and then you get more from them. And I'm a firm believer of as a manager, I'm a firm believer is that if you give a lad a little and they respect you, they'll give that back in abundance. You give a certain latitude and you will get that back. Whether it is loyalty, whether it is commitment or whatever, you will get that back if you're fair and you play ball with them as well.
That balance just really seems to be challenging, like Sigerson, Fitzgibbon, whoever you're talking about. On the NUIG as a whole, like you're looking at that panel, predominantly Galway players. I think there's one player on a certain 15. Is it from Clare?
From Clare, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's captain.
He's captain. But that's like, have you been surprised by the depth levels of Galway hurling since moving here?
Yeah, like if you go to any other college team, like we'll say a Fitzgibbon team, like go at UCD, you're going to have a few Dublin lads, you're going to have a few Kilkenny, a few Wexford, a few whatever, right? Same. Waterford, you're going to have them from everywhere. Carlow, everywhere. DCU, everywhere. Maynooth. Well, the only probably two exceptions, UL, you'll have them everywhere. LIT, same. The only two exceptions really are Cork colleges and Galway colleges. Like Galway colleges, they're really, it's like you go east or west of the Shannon, you stay there. But they do, there's a massive combination of Galway hurlers, and I'm surprised there's so many. With a few Clare, and there's one tip lad with NUIG, but the same in GMIT. There's predominantly Galway. You go down to UCC and CIT. Now I know the names have changed now. I still call them CIT, but and same with GMIT. But you go down to CIT and UCC. It's predominantly Cork players with your 2 or 3, possibly from Tip, possibly 1 or 2 from Waterford. And that's about it. Like, so yeah, I think it's unique to Cork and Galway colleges that it's predominantly from that county.
And can you win the Fitzgibbon?
I'll tell you after this weekend. Look, the semi-finalist tomorrow night against UCC, a young UCC team, predominantly backboned by the Cork under-20 team that won 2 All-Irelands. And there was a few lads playing there the other day. So it's tomorrow night is going to be touch and go. If you're a betting man and go by the bookies, Galway are favourite. But look, bookies like everyone likes beating the bookie. So look, it could go either way. I'm not going to give Cork any ammo for tomorrow night, so it could go either way, and the best team will win. That's the most politically correct way I've ever said that in my life.
Well rehearsed there. And speaking of UCC NUIG, a Galway Cork rivalry, we've seen Galway Cork at the weekend, 4-24 to 3-22. Trying to assess this, Ryan, like even after the game, it was just very hard. I found even trying to assess it. Where are Galway at after that game?
Well, look, the score wasn't unbelievable from a Galway point of view. Like they didn't play well, but still only got bet by 4 points. It was 1-13 apiece at half time. When you look at the players that Galway have missing from that, right? Dahi Burke, David Burke, Conor Cooney, Fintan Burke, 2 NUIG lads, Owen Lawless and Tiernan Clean. Like there's possibly, and I'm sure I'm leaving out 1 or 2 there as well. There's possibly 6 starters come 2 months' time when the Leinster Championship starts. I think Henry, he can't be, yeah, obviously he's disappointed he got bet, but he can't be too disappointed because he's getting to see his panel.
Yeah.
You look between the Walsh Cup and the league so far. Now, I don't have this figure, but I'd love to see the amount of players that he's used between the Walsh Cup and the first 2 rounds of the league. He's like, and he's using what the Walsh Cup and the league is for. It's to see the players, see what players you have, see their strengths, see their weaknesses, see the depth you have, And if a lad has an off day or a bad day or whatever like that, well, you're not judging him solely on that. You're giving him another chance. So I think Shefflin, yeah, like I said, disappointed, but I think he can take a lot from it. And you'd wonder between Cork and Galway the weekend there, who is going to learn more from it. I think Galway are going to learn a massive amount from it because they see what type of hurling Cork are going to play. And I suppose everyone knows what type of hurling Cork are going to play. They're going to run at you. They're going to create goal opportunities. So Galway, what learns are they going to take from that is how are they going to shut it down at the back when that opportunity, when the ball breaks and the space opens up, how are they going to close down that space? I think a vital time for Galway was the first 7 minutes of the second half in a 5-minute period. So from I think the 37th minute to the 42nd minute. Cork scored 2-3 in that 5-minute period. So I think that's a learning for Galway is how are they going to shut out that? How are they going to just, I suppose, if they do concede a goal, how are they going to put a bit of a lull in it? Now, I know in that period, that 5-minute period, there was 2-3 scored, but there was also a sending off for Oisin Salmon, which I personally think was a little bit on the harsh side.
What the second foul was actually for?
I actually don't know, and do you know what? I was at the game, but I had the worst seats ever. I arrived late because I went with my wife and 2 kids, so we were sitting right down at the front. So I was like this, trying to look. So I actually, when I saw him walking by, I actually thought he was after being substituted. I didn't realise he was after getting a second yellow until about 2 or 3 minutes after that, because I didn't spot who was after replacing him. Because there was no one to replace them. So look, I think they will have a lot to learn from it. Like I said, that 5-minute period there, if they do concede a goal, how are they going to react to it? Is there any way they can kill a game just for a few minutes, someone go down, whatever? But they need that trigger there, and they need to be able to. A lot happened in that game that they can learn from that. So yeah, there's a lot. One thing that did stand out is out of the subs that come on, there was 1-3 created for Galway from the subs, whereas the Cork subs only scored 2 points. So they can take a lot from that everyone that they did introduce contributed in some shape or form.
Just like early on, Galway looked like really clinical. They raced into a 1-7 to 1-3 lead after 14 minutes. But there was almost a thing there where you were like thinking, Galway need to put their foot down here now and just absolutely blitz Cork. Is that something that this team needs to kind of get into a game when they're on top to put teams and absolutely bury them?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. You said after 14 minutes, 1-7 to 1-3 or 1-4. Yeah, 100%. But that's what this league is for. It's about finding your best players and also putting scenarios together. So when you get to the championship, it clicks into action. And these things happen. So yeah, if I'm sure come a month's time, if they were ahead by 3 or 4 points after 15 minutes, well, instead of saying, right, now I'm not saying this is what they did, but instead of just, right, we're ahead now, we'll settle at that, right, we need a trigger, we're going to put on another point, and I suppose have that mentality that, we're always chasing the next score, it's always a draw game, we're always down by a point, we're chasing that next score, and I've no doubt, look, they've Henry Shefflin over it, he's after winning, 9-10 All-Irelands, 9-10 All-Stars, whatever. He's been in all those scenarios, and he was managed by the best hurling manager of all time. And a close second will be Jim Gavin for football. But like he has surely learned something of Brian Cody, that when it comes to like the league games, they are all simulators for championship when the real hurling starts in one way, like when you want to make a difference. These are the simulators to say, right, we've been in this situation before. This is what we do.
Just there, when you talk about the league being a simulator, what's your perception on the value of the league?
Well, look, over the years, I think the value of the league has fluctuated in so many ways. You go back, we'll say 15 years ago, I think Babs Keaton was actually, I'm kind of quoting him or paraphrasing him anyways, that he said, you're using the league to get the best team for the championship. And by the last league game, you should know what your championship team is going to be. Right? It was like that about 15, 16 years ago, and even before that. Then it went through a phase of, we'll say, the league, and then there was a break until championship. So you went all out to win the league, because it was a national competition. It was the second most important hurling competition of the year. The most important being the All-Ireland, then your league, and then your provincial championships. So it was a big thing. And winning it had a massive amount of significance, because not only did you get your best 15 on the pitch by the end of it, but it was also a bit of you could bring that momentum into the championship. You can see Cork won it a few times, Waterford won it. Lucky to be part of 2 league winning teams myself. But that momentum, and I can only speak for those 2 teams, but that momentum was brought into championship. Now, I think with the championship structure now and such a short turnover time with the split championship, you saw last year with Waterford.
Yeah.
They were the form team coming out of the league, and everyone was fearing them, and then they had a terrible championship campaign. So I think the league now is, it's nice to do well in it, but it's going back to what it was 15, 20 years ago, of getting your best team on the pitch when championship comes, because you're finished championship in 2 weeks, you're finished league, and in 2 weeks later you're into championship. So there's lots of pros and cons. Is it a flawed system at the moment? I think there is flaws in it, but I think it's a great system. But I do think there is a few flaws in it that I think over the next year or two, I think will be ironed out. I think if there was an extra week between league, the end of league and championship, I think would benefit more.
Probably time to scrap the semi-finals, is it?
Sorry?
Probably time to scrap these league semi-finals.
There's arguments for and against that as well. If they scrapped the semi-finals and just went straight through to finals, there's going to be the last 2 rounds of the league. There's going to be a lot of dead rubber games.
Yeah.
So I personally wouldn't get rid of the league or the league semi-finals, because then there's something to play for right till the very end. There's something to play for. Then after that, I would like to see an extra. No, and I'm not saying this is the right way to go. I'm not saying I know it all, but it would be nice to get this for 1 year and see how the players react to it, see how the teams react to it, see is there more emphasis being put on the league. If there was another week given between the league final, so we'll say 3 weeks between the league final and the first round of championship, I think that would benefit, because and that's only going to be 2 teams it really affects, whereas last year there was 2 weeks, and it was like, right, well, we want to win, we're in the league final, we want to win it, but we don't want to push players and jeopardize them for championship. So I think an extra week would help. I also think I don't know who it was, but someone said that for an incentive, if you win the league, that you're guaranteed All-Ireland Championship status. So just, God forbid, you come 4th in the Munster Championship, like Waterford did last year, that if they won the league like they did last year, that they, instead of the Joe McDonagh finalists both going through to the preliminary quarter-final, that it was just maybe the winner going through plus the league finalists. Something like that would be an incentive to win the league and to be peaking that little bit earlier. But I think something needs to. I think there does need to be a connection between the league and the championship. It's not just, granted they are two separate competitions and I accept that, but an incentive that if you win the league, you get this for the championship, or even an incentive will be if you win the league, you get a team holiday. Provided by the GAA, something like that, just an incentive to say, right, we're not just going to, it's not going to be a wasted competition like so many competitions have become in the GAA because of the condensed calendar, because the demands from clubs, colleges, inter-county teams. Like you look at the Railway Cup, I think is a phenomenal competition where the best hurlers in every province come together to play. And that's just scrapped by the side now. Like, I think that's one that should be reinvigorated. I think that's one that should be brought back in. Look, I'm not making the decisions, but where to fit it in then is the biggest issue. So, I don't know.
Definitely, like, so many arguments for and against of what we can do to maybe reinvent the league as a whole. Just when we were talking there about Galway 1-7 to 1-3, then 1-13 apiece. What necessarily happened that Cork clawed Galway back in?
I think they just kept on taking their chances. They kept the scoreboard ticking over. And like, it wasn't a case of, like, even we'll say when it was 1-7 to 1-4, like, they didn't blitz them for 5 or 6 points or anything like that. It was just the Galway might score a point, well then Cork would score the next 2. Cork would score 2 points, then Galway would score 2 points, Cork would score the next 3. They just kept it ticking over, didn't try to win the game in a 10-minute period. It was like, right, we'll stay ticking over with the scoreboard, and with 5 minutes to go, if we're in it, we'll feel we can win because we've got in a position to win. And then it just happened that that 5-minute period in the second half, they really blitzed them like 9 points in that 5-minute period. It was just it did put the nail in the coffin.
Is that a concern? You talk about the 2-3 and the score goal you conceded. I know it's only early on the year and it's the league, but to concede 4-24, is that a concern?
Yes, it is. I think the 23 being conceded wasn't the end of the world, but to concede the 4 goals is worry. But then again, it's the middle of February now. You go back 10 years ago, the league was only starting this weekend. So there's plenty of time to right a few wrongs. It's much better to concede 4 goals in February in a league game than it is in April or May in championship. So they can right a lot of wrongs now. And I think it's possibly a blessing in disguise.
Is that structurally where it needs to improve at the back? Because even one incident that, like, I have in my mind is Jack Grealish competing with Declan Dalton for a ball, like just a complete and utter mismatch.
Look, a mismatch. Are you on about as in size or strength? You could put it that way, but how many players did Tommy Walsh come up against over the years that he was a foot smaller than? Joe Dean, he was 2 foot smaller than most hurlers he was against. I hate saying this because he'll be delighted and he'll get a fat head from it. Dotsy O'Callaghan, one of my best mates in Dublin, he's a small little fart. And he quite very often, most of the time, he was marking lads a foot or 2 over him. And that never bothered him. So I don't think, granted you could have a mismatch, but I don't think the size or the strength or things like that are a major issue. I think it's the head and it's how you play the game. I could go and mark a lad taller than me. I rather mark lads taller than me because I was able to play them. It's the small, fast lad that you're like, oh, this. No, he tips the ball away and he's able to get to the ball before me. They're the lads that I worry about. So I don't think it was a mismatch. I think that's very, very unfair on Jack Grealish. Like, he's still young. Like, he's only 23, 22, 23. Is he
a bit older, I'd say. Maybe 25, 26, I'd say.
Oh, is he? All right. Okay. Well, look, I do think he has a lot of development to do as well. he was cornerback. I don't see him as a cornerback. I see him as a wing back, to be honest.
Yeah, you see kind of Darren Morrissey out in that.
Oisin Salmon was named wing back, but went cornerback.
Yeah.
Darren Morrissey was named cornerback, but went wing back. I'd like to see Jack Grealish on the wing. I just think now, look, I've nothing to back that up, but I just see him as a bit of a free spirit. You can get away with being a free spirit in the half back line, whereas you're a free spirit in the full back line. You get one chance, and if you mess that up, you're getting a curly finger. Look, there's plenty of time to right a few wrongs. I think if they were to play again in a championship quarter-final or semi-final, I think they'd have their matchups done and they would know exactly who they're marking, and they'd stick to them. Whereas league, you're conscious of who you're marking, but it's about getting the minutes into the legs, getting on the pitch, getting those hits, those contests, and just making it as competitive as it can. And I think that was lacking a little bit on Sunday. I think the first half especially, and then when Cork pulled away in the second half, it went back to similar to the first
challenge match field, was it?
Yeah, it was a bit pedestrian at times. Like, I could be wrong now, but was there any real hard hit? Like, you know that, and I don't mean a bad hit or a dirty hit or anything like that, but you know that those championship hits where two lads are going for the ball and you can hear that clash in the stand, but it doesn't take a whisper out of both lads going for the ball, you know, because they're just in that moment. I don't think it had that at the weekend, and not just the Galway Cork game. I was looking at the Sunday game, and I looked at a few of the games over the weekend. They didn't, like, you go to the Limerick Clare game, it didn't have that championship feel to it. Like you saw, there was a couple of situations there where personally I would say Limerick were overdoing it with the ball, but it's because they were allowed to overdo it with the ball because Clare weren't hitting them with that ferocious intensity that you do expect from Clare lads, because like I say, I've never met a sane Clare person. They're all head cases and they all throw themselves in. They're all just mad, but like they didn't have that intensity, that ferocity that was there. Now I didn't see the Tip Kilkenny game, but from what I heard as well, like it didn't have that traditional Tip Kilkenny feel to it, you know. And look, there's a lot of factors that can be taken into account there. You could say that with the structure of the league and championship now, that they want to peak a little bit later. They don't want to commit to, it's a terrible thing to say, lads don't want to commit too much to it. They're putting their life on hold for it. But that management it's just nearly about getting through the game, and especially if you have 40 players on your panel at the moment, a lot of the time, especially the first 2-3 rounds of the league, it's about crossing, and it's a terrible thing to say, but it's about crossing lines off, or crossing names off that sheet to get down to your best 20 or your best 22 for championship.
There still obviously is, like, we talk about Galway conceding 424, but there still has to be somewhat positives taken. 322, they did score in the end. Manus was really good at stages in that game, like, did really win some dirty ball. And like, if you take into consideration, like, if Kevin Cooney slotted that penalty away, it would have been a 2-point game then. And like, Galway did show a bit of spirit and character later on in that game, and that has to please Henry.
They did, and like, look, I've already alluded to it, the subs that came on. Kieran Fahey scored a point. Liam Collins, I know it was from a free, but he scored a point. Cathal Mannion, a big player that I've know that will be starting championship, and Brian Concannon with a goal that he was absolutely nearly decapitated to scoring the goal. There was 2 or 3 pulling out of him, but he worked through it and finished the goal.
Pass by Liam Collins as well.
Yeah. So like, there's an awful lot there that Galway can take satisfaction in. Evan Nyland, like, he traditionally would have been known for lad. look, if I want to score, I'll give him the ball. I don't mind being that donkey beside him. I'll give him the ball. But people would have questioned his work off the ball. But I think that's after dramatically improving this year.
Is 11 his best position now?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of structure that team are playing. Like just say you put him in corner forward. If you get the ball into him corner forward, he's a goal or point straight away. Like you're going to get a 95% return out of him straight away. But it's about getting the ball into him and getting the ball into his hand in the corner. Is he too restricted in the corner? Because you can have some very, very sticky cornerbacks. You put him out onto the wing. Yeah, he has that more freedom. He can look for the ball on the wing, but is he restricted to one side? Whereas if you're playing with a structure and you play him centre forward and just allow him roam wherever he wants, he could easily pick up 5 points a game. And that's not including frees. Like he'll pop on 99% of the frees anyway, but from general play he could easily pop 5 points if he's coming to look for the ball and lads further back the field, midfielders, half-back line are instructed to give him the ball. He could easily pop that up because he's very, like, he's so accurate. He'll put it in your eye. He's very accurate, but just to, I suppose, and I'm not saying you need to tailor a game plan to suit him, but when his name comes up when you're picking the team, you have to say, all right, what way can we play him to get the best out of the team as a whole? Or what way can we play the team to get the best out of Evan as a whole? But yeah, look, I think there is lads at the weekend that Shefflin can take a lot of satisfaction with the way they played.
What's the biggest positive then?
I think the way Oisín Salmon played, I know, right, he got sent off, whatever, but I think you see when he got sent off, I think, no, you could say that, yeah, it was they were down a man, but I think when he got sent off, I think his physical presence, his stickiness, because he is very sticky, I think that was certainly missing there. And although Galway did bring a man back to the wing back position, I think his presence was certainly missed. And like, he's only a young lad as well, like, you know, he's a lot of growing to do.
Do you see him breaking through this year?
I can certainly see him breaking through, yeah. Him, maybe I'm maybe because I see them in a different light through NUIG, but I do see Oisín Salmon, Owen Lawless and Tiernan Killeen breaking through into the backs. And possibly not as starters, but I certainly think that I see them getting championship minutes. And maybe it's because I see them away from the Galway setup and I see what they can do and the leaders that they are. Possibly Tiernan Killeen as a midfielder, because he can score from distance, he can travel with the ball, and he doesn't have to worry so much about marking a man there. And yeah, I know I'm putting my NUIG head on here, or sorry, UOG, because it's changed names. So I know I'm putting that hat on here, but I certainly think Brian Concannon, you see what he added when he came on. He won a free out near the sideline as well. And Evan Island, I certainly think they all can contribute to Galway this year. But I think, yeah, look, going back to the original point, I think Galway can be disappointed with the loss, but I think there's a lot they can take from it, and there's a lot they can improve on as well. Especially with the few scenarios, like I call them game scenarios, that they can improve on with. Right, we're not allowed to concede a goal. We're going to play a 5-minute game here. No goals conceded, but you have to score over 2-3 yourself or whatever. You know, certain situations like that. So look, a lot of improvement to do, but I think they do have time to do it, but time is going to run out quick because there's going to be, no, I know not this weekend, but after this weekend, week on week, there's going to be games. So it's about making best use of your time and putting those scenarios in place that you, when it comes through on championship day, you're used to it, nothing to worry about.
It comes at a nice time now. Say NUIG hopefully get over the line this weekend, win the Fitzgibbon Cup. There can be somewhat of that buzz brought back into the Galway camp. Then they go and play Limerick next weekend. And as you said, a lot to work on, but that's a perfect game now that you want, because like already after that weekend, it's fair to say there's a lot of hype around some of, I suppose, the second string Limerick players that have put their hands up and the amount of depth they have. But that's where Galway can test themselves and even see further where they're at.
Yeah, 100%. Look, you're coming up against All Ireland champions, not just a team that won All Ireland once. These are a team that they're very experienced. As the league goes on, they will be introducing more of what their championship team will be, more of their starters. And lads coming back into it as well, like you can see with Cian Lynch coming back into it. So I think right this weekend there's no games, but I think next weekend it's coming at a good time for them, because Shefflin will want to bounce off of Galway. He'll want to bounce a reaction from them. What better team to get a reaction than for Limerick? Limerick coming off a very good win last day, put up a massive score. Yeah, granted they got bet the first day against Cork, nipped at the end, came out the last day, and in every way, not just the scoreboard, but in every single way, dominated Clare. So Galway coming up against them the next day, they'll see, right, they came through that game. They played a very good brand of hurling. They played very quick hurling. How are we going to counteract that, and how are we going to stamp our authority on the game? I think it's an ideal game for Galway the next day, especially after coming off the Cork defeat, and like that, Shefflin and all the players want to take responsibility as well. They will want to right a few wrongs.
Absolutely, and be really interesting to see where they're at after that game. That is all on our podcast today. Thanks a million to Ryan and Dwyer for coming on.
No problem. Look, thanks a million for having me.